We'll figure it out. Hi, my name is Steve Whitacre. I am the operations manager for the Sovereign Grace Pastors College, and I am here today with Ben Kreps, who is the senior pastor at Living Hope Church in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We're here to talk today about the difference that a pastor's college student has made in the life of Living Hope Church. And so, Ben, you and your church sent Kevin and Beth Busch to the pastor's college in 2020, 2021. He graduated in 21. And from the pastor's college came straight back to Living Hope. And I'm eager to hear, and I'm eager for our listeners to hear today about the difference the pastor's college made in his life and the difference that then he, after the pastor's college, has made in your church and by extension in your life as the senior pastor. So I wonder if you could start by giving us a quick rundown of Kevin's history with the church and how did that go as you guys determined it was the right time to send Kevin to the pastor's college?
Yeah, it's fun to be with you, Steve. So the Bushes had been at Living Hope for a number of years before Pastors College, just quietly serving in the church, loving Living Hope, committed to the church as faithful servants for a number of years. I think one of the things that endeared me most to Kevin was fairly early on when he was looking for a job promotion at the job he used to work at. He informed them he would not move for that promotion, which severely limited his options
Wow.
because they were just all in at Living Hope. And so, of course, my heart is warmed by that kind of thing. And so
Absolutely.
our families were friends for years. And really what happened is I became the lead guy in 2016. We did a transition from Ken Mellinger to myself. And then over time, I became the only full-time guy on staff of a church of a few hundred people. So
Mm.
I had to have bivocational guys with me, but really desired to have a right-hand guy
Yeah.
full-time with me. And so it was actually in a transition in his career that they were at my house. Our families are friends, sharing a meal. And it occurred to me, Kevin has a Bible degree and
Mm.
went to seminary for a short time, and then drifted away from that and had sort of put aside his desire for pastoral ministry
Okay.
for many years. Uh, Incidentally, when he was a teenager, and he was in the IFB denomination, he was or network or whatever it's called. He won the Colorado State Young Preacher Championship.
Wow.
Yes. So I don't know what
I've
that means,
never
but
heard that story.
no one's
That's
ever
great.
given me a trophy for my preaching. So he had this background, and he was in this transition, sort of life transition.
Mm.
And I said to him, I remember saying to him, "Hey, listen, I don't want to ruin our friendship if this doesn't work, but would you think about, with your background, with his background, with his track record of serving and a wonderful family life, would you be willing to go through an evaluation to see about maybe you become that guy?" So this sort of came out of left field
Wow.
over a barbecue. And they agreed on assuring that whatever the outcome would be, they would be content. And so for a year, we just really began to work with Kevin. I began to come to our elder meetings. They came to our pastors and wives meetings, began meeting together, doing a rigorous evaluation over the course of a year. And pretty soon into that evaluation, it became evident that there certainly was grace in Kevin's life for a pastoral role at
Yeah.
Living Hope. And so
Yeah.
um, after that year, we landed in 2020. Uh, so everything shut down. And
Great timing.
yeah, we brought him on then for several months in 2020 as an
Okay.
intern, so he get his feet wet before he went to the pastor's college. That's at the end of that summer in 2020. And I've always admired Kevin and Beth's faith, because he's at the time, they have 5 children, so
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
in the middle of a pandemic, they were willing to relocate to Louisville.
Yeah.
Uh, 5 kids ranging from teenage to toddler, and they did it with joy, and so
Yeah.
always appreciated their faith in that, and
Yeah.
so
That's great.
grateful that God gave us the gift of another pastor that we were able to identify through that evaluation.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so cool to hear that background. So I got to know Kevin and Beth here in my role as academic advisor for the Pastors College. I taught Kevin Greek, and
Right.
have loved how his zeal for Greek, both here at the Pastors College and afterwards, just warms my heart. So I'm curious. You play these two roles in his life, both as a friend and
Mhm.
as a pastor, and now as a colleague working together. So tell us about the differences. Like, what change did you see, or changes did you see in Kevin's life over the course of the Pastors College? What did it do for him?
I think one of the main things, because he already, like I said, that they were some of the they were chief servants. They were part of the
Yeah,
group of people who served the most and do so with joy. And so that was already in place. We wouldn't have sent him if it wasn't actually.
right.
And so I think one of the things that I've noticed is that he wouldn't describe himself as an academic.
Mm.
Um, uh, cares about theology, always has. But as he came back from the pastor's college, he really became much more of a reader.
Oh
Um,
wow,
I regularly see him just walking around the building reading, but he likes to walk while he reads, uh,
I remember that.
reading. And so there's just much more of a zeal for understanding sound doctrine
It's
and
great.
applying that pastorally. I think that probably one of the biggest things that I've seen that grew in him over the course of that year.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, that's encouraging to hear, and that is obviously one of the values of the Pastors College is to
Yeah,
grow in guys a an increased appetite for God's word, for theology, both the intake in order to give it in preaching and teaching and counseling and everything else. It,
yeah,
it's gonna be hard for a guy to come, I think, if he doesn't have some appetite and aptitude for
right.
reading already. But it's great to hear how that increased in Kevin's life. What about in his family? You mentioned, yeah, five kids, delightful family, love their kids. What did you observe in that time together, relocating here to Louisville, the intensity of that coming back? Any changes you observed there in their lives?
Yeah, I think you can see that their marriage was strengthened
Mm,
through it. They grew together
wow.
while at the Pastor's College. So it wasn't just Kevin. And the wives there are also helped and blessed
Yeah.
um, through that year. And then also, I think I just see more wisdom in his parenting as well. And so I think to my observation, they came back a stronger family, both in their marriage and then together with the kids as a family.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really great. I appreciated while they were here just how all in they were and in church life. And
That's them.
my boys, teenagers, kind of late in their teenage game and in 2020 and 21, and so they got to know Silas. Kevin was bringing their oldest son Silas to youth meetings and things like that. So we were
Right.
hanging out there, and yeah, it was fun to see. Now, I got to imagine in a church like yours, like Living Hope, a church this size, and a guy with Kevin's servanthood and his gifts. I mean, that's a sacrifice. And
Yeah.
it's an investment financially, but it's also a loss for 10 months of a real key leader in the church. So, talk about how did you account for or accommodate that loss and sacrifice, as well as lead the church through it?
Yeah, so he hadn't been serving on the team for more than several months. So we hadn't given him so much responsibility that when he left, we would feel,
Okay,
this
that's good.
massive hole. If he left now, it would be a massive hole
Yeah,
that I would be a real struggle. But up to that point, I mean, the reason why I wanted a guy like Kevin as a right-hand guy is because, like I said, I was the only full-time guy. So I sort of my role has massively changed
mm,
because I sort of had my hands in everything
okay,
across the scope of the church, and so um, him leaving, of course, it was a relational hole, and there were
yeah,
things he did at the church, practical things that were very helpful. But really, what he became at the PC and returned here to is almost unreplaceable. We're all
wow,
replaceable. We will all be replaced at some
sure,
point, but
yeah,
the church would feel a devastating loss,
yeah,
having
right.
experienced the past couple of few years with Kevin and the way that he serves.
Yeah. Yeah. So sounds like, I mean, part of what you're describing is not only has he made a difference for the church, it's really made a difference for you. Like how has him
Yeah.
coming back equipped the way he is? How has that changed your job description or your typical week?
Yeah, he's administratively gifted, and I am not. It's an area that I would not call a strength. And so him coming back really freed me up to commit myself as the lead guy to several things instead of everything. To
Yeah,
commit most of my time to preaching, to raising up leaders, to work on church planting. We just planted a church,
yeah,
and those kind of things. And so he essentially came back and told me that he wanted to serve the church in such a way that I would be freed up to more
yeah.
specialize in those areas that perhaps I can make a more unique contribution to.
Right, right. Yeah, that's so great. I feel like one of the jokes that I hear with guys who are leaving the pastor's college and headed back to that kind of role is I'll ask them, like, tell me about your job description. What are you going to be doing? And they always say, well, it's, I'll be doing youth ministry and outreach and some, care for community groups or whatever. And then other duties as assigned, right? There's always this sort of
Right.
just this
On the job
bucket of like,
description,
yeah, what is all the stuff the senior pastor doesn't want
whatever
to
is
do?
needed.
But what I love about what you're describing is it sounds like Kevin came back not only equipped, but really with a vision for setting you free to do the things that you are most significantly called to do. I think that's
Yeah.
really valuable, and I think that's part of what the pastor's college does is give a guy both tools and that sense of how can I serve here and how can I take stuff off of other people's plate to free them up for the roles they've been called to. Now, you mentioned the church plant, and I was going to ask you about that because so you guys a few months ago sent Jeremy Hetrick out to plant a church not far away, and
Yeah.
connect the dots for us here. Like, how does is there a connection here from Kevin coming back from the PC, serving the way he is, to freeing up Jeremy to go plant that church?
Yeah, I haven't thought about that deeply, but yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that Kevin brings, the way he's gifted and the way he serves the church is he's administratively minded. He's very good at it, always thinking about how to improve things and how to grow things and how to bless the church. He does it with a pastoral sensitivity, so people really feel his care and all of that. He's very connected. He's a people person,
Yeah,
and so that's wonderful. But there were all manner of administrative things and ideas that came from Kevin during the process that I'm just not, I don't know if I would have thought of all the things he did.
mm,
Um, and so I was able to focus on equipping, envisioning the church for the plant, working with Jeremy and helping him through the year that he was
yeah,
on staff with us, preparing for the plant. And I don't think I would have been freed up to do all of that the way that I did
yeah.
if it wasn't for Kevin.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. That's really great to hear. Yeah, and I think that that's so. I think that's such a unique contribution that having a PC graduate come, a guy like Kevin with that kind of those kind of skills, then it's freed you up to think about other things like a church plant. And I think leading Jeremy through that, what great fruit that is to now Jeremy's planted this church and he's off and running. You guys are supporting him, caring for him. I think that's fantastic. All right.
Yeah,
Well, I want
I
to be
think.
sensitive to your time. So I've got, all right, just one last question. We'll finish with this. Any advice then that you would give? Obviously, we're having this conversation with an audience in view, thinking about, other senior pastors who are considering, should I send a guy? How do I think through the sacrifice that is the risk for him coming back? Any advice that you would give senior pastors wondering about that or are hesitant about that kind of investment?
Yeah, well, so I went to the Pastor's College in 2011, 12. Those were
Oh,
interesting
wow.
times. Uh,
Boy.
and my wife and I were so blessed and strengthened and equipped during that year, 10 months. We've often said to each other, we'd love to go again.
Yes,
Um,
that's great.
we won't, but it would be wonderful to experience that again. I go about once a year to go to a class, so I kind of have
Oh, good.
a taste of that experience. And so I already had a conviction that the pastor's college was an important piece in equipping pastors. And so for us, we have bivocational guys. We're probably not thinking about sending them necessarily because they have careers and things
Hmm.
like that. That makes it very challenging. But I've always thought that if a guy's going to be full time, especially if he's going to be a church planner, um, the pastor's college is crucial.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so what we do, and I know not all churches are able to do this, but we're willing to have the kind of faith to pay for all of it.
yeah.
Um, and so we brought him. I mean, he had 5 kids, and he's relocating for a year. And so
Yeah, that's legit.
we Yeah, yeah. So we put him on staff, and
Okay.
we paid his way, um, and so that's challenging. That's a big check at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
But I mean, I believe certainly that the Pastors College is so vital and so helpful to
Mm,
a guy doing the kind of work that Kevin does, or any other full-time guy, especially, or a lead guy, definitely, that it's worth that sacrifice. And so. We have other guys that are we're evaluating right now that we'd like to send. We're thinking about
great.
sending multiple guys at the same
Yes.
time, possibly not this year, but next year possibly. And
Great.
so I don't know that we can pay for if we send two guys. I don't know that we could do that. But we find it such a vital part of equipping a guy for ministry that
Hmm.
we're willing to dig deep, adjust the budget, do what it takes to make it happen.
Yeah.
But also to find if the money's not there, for instance, like for us and 25, and we want to send guys, to find creative ways to fundraising. I think there's actually resources that
Yeah.
that you guys have
Yep.
to guide a church when it comes to fundraising and finding creative ways. So for me, I'm like, we'll find a way,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Love that.
because we so love the PC, and Jeff's leadership of the PC, and what we've experienced from three guys. There's another guy who went, John Snydell. He went
Mm.
in
Oh yeah.
99,
Yeah.
2000.
Yeah.
Who's on
Remember
my
John?
team.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
Yeah.
great.
So we're just it starts with a conviction that we want our guys to be as equipped as possible, and to serve the church most effectively. And one of the things that's interesting is him coming back after the pandemic. We began growing like a lot of
Okay.
Southern churches did,
Yeah.
and we continue to grow, and we're not trying. We don't have like advertising campaigns, although we've decided to start using digital outreach. It's been a
Good.
wonderful experience.
Yeah.
So next month we launch a new website. But I
Nice.
actually attribute a significant part of why we've grown
Yep.
because Kevin serves so excellently in so many different areas,
Yeah.
and people feel that leadership, they feel that care, they feel the
Right.
excellence that's being brought into the various spheres of the church, and so people's
Yeah.
experience when they visit the church is a very enjoyable one, and in large part because of Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's great that you say that. And I've heard stories like that so many times of churches that say, it's a risk for us to send this guy because he's going to come back and we think there's money. Maybe there's like 80% of
Yeah,
what we need. And we're just trusting the Lord to make up that difference. And it's like what that guy's been equipped with, what he brings back to the church. It's like it pays for itself in terms of the growth that
yeah, it
often
really does.
happens. So that's so encouraging to hear about. And I love, man, I love that you telling that story about just being willing to write a big check. That says a lot about y'all's commitment to serving the church excellently and doing that through the education and equipping that happens at the Pastors College. So thanks for your example in that. Thanks for your
Mm.
willingness and faith to do that. That's really wonderful. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation today. I'm really encouraged by your testimony of the difference Kevin has made in your church and in your life, and the difference Pastors College made in Kevin's life. So, thank you so much for your time,
No,
and
it's a
look
pleasure.
forward to seeing you again soon.
All right, Steve, thanks.
All right, great.